Okay, hello everyone and welcome to this next lecture on Python Power Electronics. And in this video lecture I'm going to describe how you can use Python Power Electronics in Windows. I usually don't use Windows, so I hope this will be the first and last video or lecture I make in Windows, but I felt this is still necessary for most Windows users. So to begin with, in Windows you will need to install Python. What I'm going to use in the circuit simulator, I'm going to use the web application version. So therefore I need Django, I need Python, and I need MatPlotLib. So though you can always install these separately, a very convenient way to install them together is using Anaconda. And Anaconda Python is what I'm going to show you first. So the first link is Anaconda Python. So Anaconda Python, as I said before, is an entire Python environment. You can go through it, this entire links, it has a lot of links, there are a lot of downloads and everything else information. It's a great package. So first and foremost, what I'm going to tell you is how do you download this. So when you click on download Anaconda, it gives you these several links. For example, you can install for Windows, and since this lecture is on Windows, you're going to say install Anaconda Windows. Now there are several options here. Okay, there's a Python 3 version, there's a Python 2 version. At the time of making this video, the circuit simulator will not work with Python version 3. It will only work with Python version 2. So do not download and install Python version 3. Download and install Python version 2.7. In this there are again two options, 64-bit and 32-bit. Depends on your computer. If in doubt, just Google your computer's make and try to figure out whether it's 64-bit or a 32-bit computer. A thing to note here is the size of the file. The size of the file is 400 to 500 MB. That's huge, right? And there's a reason why this download is so huge. The reason why this download is so huge is because Anaconda is a complete Python package. It has every possible and option with respect to Python. So I would strongly suggest that you install this. If you have a problem like a very slow internet connection, or you have a download limit which this would end up exceeding, then there are other options, and I would suggest contact me and I'll tell you what to do. But otherwise just go ahead and install. So for this purpose, what I would say, download this, it'll take a while. After that, use the custom install options. There is no need to do anything special. Use the custom install options, install even if it gives you a choice, install all the choices, because eventually you just need the complete Python version. So at this point of time, pause the video, download and install this, and click on play when you've done so. Right now I will continue assuming that it has been done. So in my case I already have it, so I'm not going to download or install it. To access it, we just go to our packages. Here you see Anaconda 2 64-bit, because that's what I have, a 64-bit computer. In this there are several options. Alright, the most important thing which you might later can use is what is called as a Jupyter Notebook. Jupyter Notebook is extremely useful when you're using data science. So think about this if you want to ever become a data scientist. What we are going to use now is Anaconda Prompt. So I'm going to open this, and this gives me the Anaconda Prompt. Now I'll tell you a little about what this base is. First, what I'm going to do is I will show you what happens in this computer. I have my operating system in C drive, and I have two other Windows partitions. I do not want to use C drive, I will use another partition. So I'm using partition E. In partition E, I already have a folder, Python Power Electronics, PPE. And within this, I have created an empty folder called Video Lecture. Video Lecture is for this particular lecture. So the first thing is, there are two aspects. The first part, I am going to create what is called as a virtual environment. Now, a virtual environment can be seen of as a container. This container has all your packages. The reason why this is very convenient is, in a single computer, you can have several such containers, and each container is totally independent of the other. So you could have one container with Python version 2, another container with Python version 3, one container has Django version 1.1, the other has Django version 2. You can change anything any way you want, and that's why I would strongly suggest you create a virtual environment. I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call this, let's call this my environment. It's just a folder. So the first thing is we are going to get to that folder, and that's what I do. You see, the only folder here is PPE. Within that I have my video lecture, and within that I have my environment. Now to start off with, before we start off with virtual environments, I'll tell you a little about what this virtual environment concept is. So first things first, let's go to documentation in Anaconda. And Anaconda has a fairly good documentation, and in this there is the user guide. Actually, this is probably the wrong one, because I am looking at, let me Google Conda documentation. So Conda documentation is the best way to get to this. So let's look at Conda, because Anaconda is actually called Conda, it's the same thing. Here we go to what is called user guide. User guide tells you everything you need to know about how to use this, install it, everything, right? Now what I'm going to go to is called tasks, because I want to now perform tasks with this, and in that there's something called managing environments, and here you will get an idea about everything about how you create an environment. Alright, so the first thing you should know is, let's say for example you want to see it, like here it says this will display all the environments in it. So let me see what we have. Oh, well, wrong syntax. Please do use the user guide when you're typing commands. So the first thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to list out all the environments which are there. So I have base. You see, this is what base is, and this asterisk means that the base is currently active, and that's what you see here. You see the ones in bracket? That means that this virtual environment is currently active. I already have another virtual environment called Circuit Sim, and this is from the Circuit Simulator. For this lecture, I would like to create a brand new virtual environment, and for that let's create one. Let's go back all the way to the top, and you see, to create an environment, Conda create name my. So let's call this video lecture. Let me go back and look. So this is going to create a particular another environment called video lecture, and in this video lecture I'm going to install all the packages that we need. In your case, I would say call it anything you want and follow the similar steps to install those packages. So let's go back here and let's look at it a little. It's going to ask you some questions, and I'm assuming it'll ask us a question soon. It's probably just creating the base version. And here it says, if you want to create with a particular version of Python, you can always create it in this manner. That is, you can specify a package, and I'll show you how this can be used later. So here it is. It says, okay, it gives you a particular warning. It says that a newer version of Conda exists. I don't really care. I'm not going to update it. This shows the location of the environment, video lecture. Proceed, yes, no problem. So, and then finally it says this is how you activate and deactivate the video lecture. So let us now that we've created this, remember the name of the virtual environment which is active is the one in brackets. So it is still the base video lecture. I want base environment. I want the video lecture environment. So I'm going to run this command. So now you see it has changed, because now, let me just zoom around. You see now it has changed because the video lecture is no longer, base is no longer the active environment. The active environment is now video lecture. So let's look at this once, and I'm going to type this command just to confirm the version of Python we have. If you do not have this, or if for some reason you have Python 2.7.14 instead of Python 2.7, you have Python 3, I would say stop this right now, use conda deactivate, go back and use this command, but instead specify the version to be 2.7. Alright, remember this simulator will not work with Python version 3. So make sure that your first command is Python -v to check the version, and the version should be Python 2.7. So now that we have this, I can go on to the next part. Now the best part about conda is, now that we have this virtual environment, it is a container. Within this I can install anything I want. So as I said, the next immediate dependency is Django, and for that come down here and you'll see that it gives you several options. So for example, it says conda install, and I would say take some time, read this entire user guide. It's really good. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly run through the commands that you need to do. So to install anything within this environment, you need to run conda install. Okay, I need Django, and I am going to install Django version 1.1. The reason why I'm saying this is, if I don't do this and if I just do conda install Django, you see what's going to happen. Just give it a little bit of time. The reason is it will always install the latest version of Django, and at the point of making this video, the latest version of Django is version 2, which is too advanced. Okay, I can't guarantee that it will continue to work. So I just want to show you what happens, and here this is what happens. You see here, the following new packages will be installed. Right? This is what is the most important. You see Django version 2.0.2. That's too advanced, so let's abort this process. Let's say no. And it has aborted. So now let's go back here and instead let us specify Django version 1.10. Alright? Because this is a version which I know works, I would suggest try to install this. I will try to upgrade the simulator so that it works for later versions, but for now just try this out. Now here again it will not work, and I'll show you why. I just want to take you through these processes so that you know what to do, but there's a little bit of a catch, and I'll show you why this command should not be executed. So don't go ahead with this, and I'll show you exactly this what happens. So here again you see now the Django version is 1.10. That's a good thing. The rest are okay. There's a problem here. You see here Python version 3.6.5. The following new packages will be installed. This is going to install Python version 3.6.5. That's not okay. The reason? Because the simulator does not work with Python 3. This is going to override the version of Python 2.7 we have in this environment, and is going to install Python version 3. So again, don't go ahead, say no. And this aborts the process. So now what this means is we got to add another clause. And what I got to say is I need Python version 2.7. Right? When you specify conda install and you specify a version, you are going to it will go install that version unless there's a conflict. In this case, I don't think there's a conflict. So in this manner, you can specify any number of packages and specify a version to make sure that it installs only that version. So let's go ahead now. So you see, it is solving the environment. First, it just decides the dependencies, whether any dependencies are required and so on and so forth. The first thing it says is your Python version is, your Conda version is old. Now, let's check out now what it says. The following new packages will be installed. Django 1.10, Certify, I don't know what it is, pip is just a pip installer, Python 2.7.14. That's okay. That's the same version we have. So it's going to override the version with maybe some minute differential version, but that's okay. I don't care about that. So proceed. Yes, now we can proceed. So we say yes, and it downloads the packages. Now how fast it's going to download depends on your internet connection. All right, I don't think I will need to pause, but while this happens, I would just like to show you a little more. In Conda, there are several things which you can actually do in Conda, and I would suggest you should try it out. Try to create different versions of virtual environments and try to upload different, try out different versions of Django, try out different versions of MatPlotLib, because that will help a lot in understanding this. The best advantage of this is you can make as many as you want and create all these different versions without actually impacting each other. If you install Django or Python on this computer, it will affect everything. It's a universal version. But if you install Django or Python inside a virtual environment, it remains within the virtual environment. So therefore, I would always say, always create a virtual environment when possible. So it is taking some time. So while this is happening, let me go and tell you about Python Power Electronics. So now that we have this, I'm going to Google, just Google Python Power Electronics. And that the first link is my circuit simulator. So in this, I am now later going to download the latest version. So that is, I'm going to download version web app 2.0.5. Okay, let's check out what's happening here. It is still downloading. Okay, no problem. So I'm going to download the zip version. It has downloaded and it has put it in my downloads file. Not a problem. I am going to copy and I'm going to put it here. So this is my circuit simulator. I'm going to extract it here. And I get this particular, okay. And this is the directory that we have. So I'll show you a little, I'll tell you a little about this. I'm just waiting for this install to complete. It's taking quite a bit of time, because even after this is done, we'll have to install MatPlotLib. I do believe it has progressed a little. Okay, so while this is happening, let me tell you a little about this. So this is the file which I downloaded. Within this, okay, there are some embedded folders, but never mind. Now, simulator interface is the name of the Django project. Now, I would suggest do a little bit of Google search in Django. Maybe I'll create another video lecture on Django later. But for now, simulator interface is the name of the Django project. And when you create a Django project, it creates two folders. It creates the outer folder and it creates an inner folder. Now, the inner folder contains some files here. You see, it contains a setting. In it, basically, it means that this folder is a package. Settings is an extremely important file. Now, you do not have to change it. There is no need for you to change this file unless you want to tamper with it or try something out. URLs since this is happening, oh no, okay, I will just show you this file, but in the meantime the most important thing, the install is completed, so I'm going to go back to it soon. This is the reason why I don't use Windows, because it's so slow. Okay, so this is your settings file, and it contains basically the settings of the project. It contains a lot of things, secret key, everything else. I would probably make another folder at a later stage, not right now, but this file need not be changed. If you want to change it, you're welcome to, but I would say think about changing it in an incremental manner. So now that this is done, the next dependency that we have is MatPlotLib, because remember, this circuit simulator web application version uses MatPlotLib for plotting the waveforms, so we must have MatPlotLib. So I got to go through the same process, this time install MatPlotLib, and as before, always check what it says in terms of what are the packages to be installed. So anyway, while this is happening, let me go back here. URLs is a file that contains, let me now just do, and this is the beauty of Windows. You see, everything is stuck. But anyway, I can't keep ranting about Windows all the time. Anyway, this is my urls.py. urls.py file basically tells you all the active links in this circuit simulator, and these are the links. There's a home page, there's a new simulation page, there's a simulation library, documentation, contact. Documentation and contact are just info pages. New simulation is to start a new simulation. Simulation library is to browse through the simulations that exist, and I'll show you later when I start off with it. So now WSGI is like a settings file. Don't change it, don't delete it. Now manage.py file is an executable file. There is nothing in this file if you actually choose to open it. Alright, so now finally this install of MatPlotLib seems to be done. Just to go back to, it's been a while, so conda install MatPlotLib was the command I ran. And this is what it tells you to. It says these are all the packages needed. Surprising actually, quite a lot of them. But just to make sure that there is no conflict, just check Cycler, FreeType, ICU, JPEG, MatPlotLib or 2.2.2, it doesn't matter. NumPy we are not using, so it doesn't matter. Python, dateutil again. Most important, what I'm looking for is it overwriting a version of Python? And it is not overwriting a version of Python. So therefore it's safe to continue. Now as before, I don't really know how much longer it will take, so until then we'll continue. So as I said, Python manage.file is an executable, is like an executable file, and this is the file name. So the file name is basically all it does, and I'll tell you why. The reason is when you want to make any change, or you want to make any, like you want to even run the server, you use manage.py file, and I will show you that later. Now simulations is the name of the app. So in Django, you create a project, and then within the project, you create an app. The name of the app is simulations. Now, simulations contains a whole lot of files, right? Templates are the actual HTML files, which we will render when you visit the server. When you click on a link, when you do anything, it renders HTML files. These are all the HTML files. All right. Now, the remaining are, many of them are actual circuits, or like circuit elements.py file is a part of the circuit simulator. Circuit exceptions is a part of the circuit simulator. Circuit solver is not used in this particular. It is just a legacy circuit. It is not used. File. It is not used. Matrix is a part of the circuit simulator. Solver is a part of the circuit simulator. So is network reader. Now, what is special in the Django part? Views.py file and models.py file. So first I'll go to models.py file. So models.py file describes every part of the database. For example, these are all the database table descriptions. Okay. If you're familiar with Django, you would know what this is. If you're not, have a little bit of a read. But this is similar to the column names that you would have in an SQL table. The next part is views.py file. This is an extremely critical part of the circuit simulator, of the Django application at least. So, and if you see in views.py file, you find that this views.py file is a huge file, and this will, number one, it will have a function for every link that you visit. So for every link that you visit which corresponds to a URL, this has a function, and each function later on performs some operation either on the database or rendering an HTML file or many of these. If you want, go through these files. I won't really go through it here. I'm just showing you because the download and installation are taking time. So with this done, there's pretty much more or less everything that I need to show you in this aspect. So as I said before, I don't think there's any need for you to change any part of this, any part of the files, unless you want to play around with it. So this is the file which I downloaded, and within this simulated interface is the actual Django application. There is no real need to change any of the files. You are welcome to use it because that's the purpose behind having a open source circuit simulator, but there is no real need to. So next step, what I'm going to show you is, now that we are in this virtual environment, and now that we have all the dependencies sorted out, that is, we have Python, we have MatPlotLib, we have Django, the next part is I'm going to now use these files, or rather use the latest circuit simulator which I downloaded, and I am now going to create, and I'm now going to start the web server. After starting the web server, I'm now going to run it on the Windows machine, and I'm going to show you how you could, well, actually I probably will not run a simulation because the simulation is a large task. What I would do is I would just show you a sample circuit. That's probably what I would have. Now I honestly don't know why it's taking so much time. This usually happens when you have a really slow internet speed, which I don't. But as I said before, this is just Windows, I guess. So yeah, this will probably be the last video lecture which I create in Windows, and as you can see, it's quite apparent why I would make this my last video. Windows is not something that I enjoy using. Besides this, we can always go back to our Conda documentation, and in this case, usually you don't need to know much, but another aspect that you can always do is you could always try out different versions of Django. As I said, here all you have to do when you create a Python version, all you have to do is install a particular version of Django. So feel free to play around with the different versions of Django, different versions of MatPlotLib. It does seem to have progressed. In terms of Python Power Electronics, another option that you can try out is you can also try out using the command line. The only problem with using the command line is the command line expects you to use GNU plot unless you know how to plot with MatPlotLib. If you know how to plot with MatPlotLib, by all means go ahead. In the web application, the entire process of plotting has been automated, which is why you don't have to worry about it. So in here again, as you might see, there are lots and lots of things with dependencies which get downloaded. The only thing, the most important part in this circuit simulator is making sure at all times that you have Python version 2.7 and you haven't by mistake installed Python version 3, because if you install Python version 3, some things will break, because Python version 3 has actually changed the syntax of some statements, like the print statement is now a function. So many of the parts where I've actually used the print statement, I've used it as a statement, as not as a function, and when you use it in that manner, it's a straightforward syntax error. Okay, I'm going to pause this video right now because I don't know what exactly is happening. Okay, so now I'm going to continue before where we had the error. So as before, first I'm going to activate our virtual environment, that is conda activate video lecture. Okay, now the next step is to go into the directory. So as I said before, our circuit simulator is in the E drive. So and here you will see the directory pp. Within that we have our own video lecture, and within that we have the circuit simulator directory. And again, go one directory in, and finally the Django project. So here we are in the root Django project. The first thing we need to do, we need to create what is called as the database schema. So this means right now what we have is the Django project files. But remember, Django needs a backend database, and this circuit simulator uses a backend database. So to create that, run the following command. As I said, manage.py is an executable file, so always run python manage.py when you run any command on the Django server. So in this case it is make migrations simulations. Type the command exactly as it is. What we are trying to say is create this app. The name of the app is simulations, so migrate all the database structures for this app. So you see, this is exactly what it has done. It has now created all the databases. Each one of this is a database table. So it has created all the tables so that which can later on be written when the server runs. Now that's not done yet. Again, I need to confirm that the server is ready, and for that I have to do something called migrate. Basically all I have to say is complete the entire server setup. So type these commands exactly as it is, and that's exactly what's happening. Apply all migrations. So it is running these are some of the apps which are already there by default. Simulations is our app. The others are apps which come with Django. So it already applies all those apps. So this way it creates the apps ready, and now the server is ready to go. And for that, the last command. Run server. Run server means go ahead and run this server. Performing system checks, and here you see system check identified, no issues. Very important, no issues. It runs this Django settings. It says this I'm using this settings file. Most importantly, starting development server at 120C. This is the link that we need to use. So I'm going to copy. Well, I can't copy, but I'm just going to type it again. So it is 127.0.0. Well, I have it because I usually use it. 8000. And this is a circuit simulator running off a web browser. So in this case, if I click simulation library, I get nothing. The reason, because I just started the entire process. But as you add simulations, you'll get some cases which you can load and rerun, so on and so forth. So you don't have to recreate everything from scratch. You can say everything gets saved. Can just restart it whenever you want. To create a simulation, we click on this. You see, this is, and these are and everything, there are instructions. You can click, you can start. I will do a separate lecture on this, not now. And of course a little bit of documentation, and of course contact. Otherwise, this is pretty much it. So I hope this lecture has been a bit useful. I have gone through the entire process of how we set up an Anaconda virtual environment. How do you install packages into the virtual environment, and how do you finally configure and run the server. So as before, if you have any doubts, contact me by email, Facebook, or any other means you want. But I hope you are able to use the circuit simulator in Windows. If you are a Windows user, again, I would strongly suggest switching over to Linux. It's much easier there. But if for some reason, if you have a work computer, or you just have too many things on the computer, which is why you need Windows, you're a gamer or anything else, then yes, this is an option that you can use. So I hope you find it useful. Thank you so much for viewing. Goodbye.